Hello, I'm Ray Gomez on the Morning News. U.S. President Barack Obama vetoed a Republican bill concerning the Keystone XL oil pipeline from Canada, leaving the long-debated project in limbo. Republican Mitch McConnell announced the Republican-led Senate would attempt to overturn the veto by March the 3rd. The party originally passed the bill to increase pressure on Obama to approve the pipeline. A move the president said would bypass a State Department process that will determine whether the project is in the U.S. national interest. According to critics, the project is bad for the climate. With carbon emissions involved in getting the oil, it would carry out of Canadian tar sands.
Without objection.
Mr. President.
Former Brazilian President Lula da Silva defended the country's state-run oil company Petrobras at a rally in Rio yesterday. Lula addressed the rally organized by Brazil's CUT, National Labor Union, and the FUT, Oil Workers Union. Activists said Brazil's right-wing opposition hoped to use an ongoing corruption scandal at Petrobras in order to privatize it. The company is under police investigation over an alleged bribery and money laundering scheme. However, Lula argued that there was no need to ditch the company because a handful of oil mill workers may have messed up. He said instead, such corruption should be punished. A large part of the Jewish community in Argentina opposed the positions of the two major Jewish organizations in the country. They consider those organizations who represent foreign interests and not those of the Argentine Jewish community. teleSUR's correspondent Leo Poblete has his report.
The current political situation in Argentina after the death of Nisman has meant that many in the Jewish community, a community of great history in the country, has rethought their political position.
The Jewish community in Argentina has a rich tradition, a history of commitment. To those of us who are direct descendants of the immigrants who brought all this baggage to these shores, it is an awesome responsibility to take care of that legacy and transmit it. We must take great care of it and transmit it into the future for future Argentines, Argentine Jews, but Argentines above all.
In recent years, an increasing number of Argentine Jews have become indifferent and oblivious to the attitude of the leaders of the central Jewish institutions. The latest events related to the 1994 Amia bombing case in Argentina have rekindled this discussion, and because of that, the National Meeting of Argentine Jews has been created.
Both institutions have in some way portrayed the spirit in which they were formed back in the 19th and early 20th century, which was also involved in the struggle against fascism. Today they have become institutional appendages of a very conservative structure linked to corporations in our country and with a direct line to foreign embassies.
One of the criticisms that arise is the powerful ties of these entities with nations such as Israel or the US and their embassies in Buenos Aires.
They only care about the instructions that come from Israel. This was clearly seen when Argentina signed the memorandum with Iran, where the DAIA, the umbrella organization of Argentina's Jewish community, came out to say they agree with it, to then radically turn their back on what they had said only 12 hours later, after Israel instructed them to do so, saying that moving forward with Iran was not an option.
In just 20 days, more than 2,000 people have signed up to the call made by the National Meeting of Argentine Jews. The objective of this sector is to create a new voice which represents the Argentine Jewish community more democratically and without the interference from Israel or the United States. From Buenos Aires, Leo Poblete, teleSUR.
And according to recent polls, President Enrique Peña Nieto has seen a dramatic drop in approval ratings. While many point to the case of the 43 disappeared Ayotzinapa students, others say it also has to do with Mexico's rampant political corruption. Our correspondent Clayton Kahn has more.
Many here in the streets of the Mexican capital will tell you that the country's chronic political corruption is simply part of everyday life, with it meaning the enriching of the political class at the expense of the everyday person.
And for those above, there are many things, such as wealth and good living, while the people below are dying of hunger. This is a country that isn't poor in resources, but all of the resources are in the hands of the politicians.
Facing mounting and public political pressure to confront the systemic corruption, Mexico's President Enrique Peña Nieto has affirmed that he will see through the approval of a national anti-corruption system.
On the issue of combating corruption, there really is a new attitude and a new capacity that the leadership in Mexico's institutions have. I insist on remodeling a new culture of ethics in Mexican society.
However, Nieto, the First Lady, and members of his cabinet have been slammed with high-profile scandals in recent weeks regarding potential corruption, with private luxury homes being purchased through contractors that have won major public works projects.
In terms of economics, the message that this gives is that it is good to be a successful contractor for the government. It is not sufficient to be the best company with the best prices, with the best technology, overall the best offer, but rather it is very much a necessity to have a tight relationship and friendship with the person who approves the contracts.
This week, Mexico's Congress is debating the approval of the political corruption overhaul bill, yet opposition members say the measure is simply topical and driven by politics.
More than anything, they seek propaganda, saying that there are no reforms to combat corruption at its roots, but they leave the structure intact.
Although Mexico's three major parties say they are in general in agreement over the anti-corruption legislation, it is expected that its details and execution will spark further debate. Clayton Khan, teleSUR, Mexico City.
On to Peru, where the NGO called DAR, or to give, recently discovered that dangerous chemicals were approved by the government for agricultural use. Our correspondent in Lima has more.
The Peruvian executive issued two controversial decrees earlier this year. One allows the use of fertilizers that are known to damage the ozone layer. The other decree allows the commercialization and use of pesticides, which are characterized by the World Health Organization as extremely dangerous, contaminating rivers, lakes, and soils, as well as posing the risk of poisoning people.
In other countries, these substances are prohibited. In fact, starting with the Montreal Protocol, many countries have adopted the legislation to prohibit those chemical components that damage the ozone layer. And in the case of pesticides with toxic components for agriculture, they have also been prohibited in other countries.
Cesar Gamboa believes that the government is allowing the use of those toxic products because they are cheaper, and this will help with the slowing economic growth. However, he argues that such option is short-sighted since it will have a greater health cost later on. Organic farm workers, in contrast, have proposed an alternative.
Ecological farm workers do not agree with the government because its use is double-speak. We just had a discussion at the COP20 about natural ecosystems, taking care of the environment, biodiversity, and all the issues that we have been working on. But now they're implementing this policy of allowing toxic agricultural products.
Moises Quispe explains that the National Association of Ecological Producers, which is made up of 15,000 workers, has been using for a long time natural pesticides. He argues that these farmers have proven that it is possible to use such alternatives to provide the public with nutritious organic and eco-friendly food at an affordable price. Reporting from Lima, Peru for teleSUR, Rael Mora.
In world news, 8 people were shot dead in a restaurant in Czech Republic Tuesday. The people were allegedly shot by an older man who later committed suicide. He apparently went to the restaurant at lunchtime with 2 firearms and shot at random. Witnesses said there were 20 people in the restaurant at the time. The shooter reportedly called the television station before the incident. And in Indonesia, students have burned pictures of Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott after he referred to Australia's $1 billion aid relief sent to the country after the 2004 tragic tsunami. Abbott mentioned the aid in order to pressure Indonesia to release 2 Australians convicted of drug trafficking. Indonesians are now rallying round to attempt to pay Australia back and have mobilized in record numbers according to reports. And went with a blind person who sort of saw his partner for the first time in over 10 years. A person taking part in a clinical trial of the Mayo Clinic in the US was fitted with the Argus 2, a side-bionic eye system that sends a processed video signal directed to his optic nerve, allowing his brain to perceive simple images. The patient has a degenerative eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. With the technology, he will see points of light that will help him to locate doors or sense how many people are standing nearby.
Alan is one of the first people in the United States fitted with an Argus 2, a bionic eye system that restores partial vision to the blind.
More on these and other stories on our website, telesurtv.net/English. I'm Ray Gomez, and have a nice day.